Hi, everybody. This is Gerald Worley's Functional Nutrition Consultant. Today, I'm going to talk about minerals. What are they and why are they needed? So I'm going to go ahead and share with you. Number one, minerals are very, very important because this is a page from a reference guide that I have learned functional nutrition from very beginning. You can see right here at the top. It shows that we need manganese for the pituitary, iodine for the thyroid, copper for the adrenals, chromium for the pancreas, zinc for the prostate, uterus, right, etc. So there are trace minerals, or also known as micro minerals. And we know for a fact that iodine is needed to make thyroid hormone. So when we think about thyroxine or T4, as well as T3, that 4 and 3 indicate the number of iodine molecules within that thyroid hormone. So it's very important that we're actually consuming iodine from our diet. And there are specific foods that are going to be very rich in iodine. Furthermore, when we learn about thyroid hormone, our cells actually need potassium. We have to have enough potassium for the thyroid hormone to effectively get into the cell and have their cellular effects, thus regulating metabolism. So we know that body temperature, basal body temperature, as well as metabolism is somewhat influenced by thyroid hormone. We also think about zinc. Zinc is extremely important for prostate health. Now, I have a lot of individuals that come into our clinic, especially men, who are zinc deficient. And you can easily order this zinc taste test, and you can go ahead and find the link down below, but order the zinc taste test and do it for yourself. And if you find that you have low zinc status, when you actually put this in your mouth, it's going to taste like water initially. It may even taste like water up to the point which you swallow it. So hold it in for your within your mouth for 10 seconds. And if you don't taste anything at all and it tastes like water, don't think that they ripped you off. Don't think that there isn't any zinc sulfate in here. It's just indicative that you are deficient in zinc, and zinc is extremely important for prostate health. So trace minerals are extremely important for hormones. Think about activation of hormones, so that we know the pituitary gland needs manganese. We know that chromium is needed in the pancreas. Now, it doesn't mean chromium from eating a car bumper. Back in the 1970s, those bumpers were made out of chromium. It doesn't mean eating metallic chromium. You can see my other posts on metallic minerals, but I'm not going to get too in depth of that. Today, I'm going to talk about other minerals. Now, within our muscles, we need potassium, magnesium, calcium, because we know if we don't have sufficient amounts of those particular minerals, and many of them we can consider magnesium as well as calcium as a macro mineral, those are needed for proper contraction and relaxation of muscles. So oftentimes individuals are thinking about electrolytes, and just keep in mind that electrolytes are in a way synthetic minerals that are made by a manufacturing company. And so you want to think about, when you're looking for electrolytes, look for real food-based minerals. And we talk about potassium, magnesium, and calcium. And we've got two formulas that I typically recommend to my patients in the clinic. And the first one is the Easy Mag. Easy Mag is a rich source of potassium as well as magnesium. Okay. And the two go hand in hand together. And what's great about this formula, it's made from actual vegetables from the Standard Process farm. So if you don't know about the actual Standard Process organic farm, be sure to visit my website, look it up. The best quality foods are coming from nutrient dense soil. So Easy Mag, this is something I take daily. I'm just taking half a tablet, but if I have an individual who is experiencing all types of muscle cramping related symptoms, I'm going to be increasing that to 2-3 tablets per day until those symptoms subside. And then they're on a maintenance dose of usually half to 1 tablet. And it's usually pretty good. Now, in the event that Easy Mag is not ideal, there is another great formula that's very rich in potassium, has some magnesium. This is called organically bound minerals. This is so simple. This formula is 2 ingredients. It's kelp and alfalfa. Alfalfa is also in some of these other formulas that I'm going to show you, but kelp and alfalfa. Kelp is one of the formulas that is one of the foods that's most richest in a lot of the trace minerals as well as potassium. Okay, and same with alfalfa. Another great mineral formula for someone who's just looking on maintenance is trace minerals B12. So someone doesn't have any symptoms due to a potassium deficiency, magnesium deficiency, then trace minerals B12 is very neutral. Now, on occasion, I will have some individuals who are looking for a good calcium, an ionizable calcium that's very similar to what is found in breast milk, and that's going to be the calcium lactate formula. Now, this is a balance between magnesium and calcium in a 5-to-1 ratio. Within our bloodstream, it's naturally balance 5 parts calcium, 1 part magnesium. And that's what this formula represents. And this one's coming from the fermentation of specific foods known as fermented sugar beets. So it's a very highly ionizable form. It is not your calcium carbonate. That is a form of calcium I highly recommend. That is literally ground up limestone rocks. Okay. And so in my presentations that I provided natural healthcare practitioners across the country, we do not want to be eating minerals that are literally ground up rocks or ground up car bumpers. Those metals or minerals, in a way, are typically toxic to our bodies and can accumulate. Our body will be able to convert some of it to a usable form, but it won't be 100% utilizable. And then the livers have to clear it out. Okay, so some other minerals. Now, we need minerals to have hormone balance, hormone function, just as we need the zinc and the iodine, the manganese, as I mentioned earlier. We also need minerals, especially macro minerals, for the health of muscle contraction and relaxation. So that's your potassium, magnesium, calcium. And then we need minerals for structure, right? So healthy bones, healthy teeth. A lot of individuals, unfortunately, believe that bones and teeth are just made out of calcium and only calcium. Well, the sad thing is that there is a lot of calcium, but it's made of other minerals compacted within the bone. And especially bones, our bones are 1/3 minerals, 1/3 protein, and 1/3 water. A lot of people don't realize our skeleton actually is 1/3 water. And then that most important part of bone strength is protein. So if you haven't seen my protein post, be sure to look around my website for that. And you can see the importance of protein and how it relates to healthy bone health. But let's talk about the mineral aspect, that 1/3 minerals in bones. And it's not just calcium. There's phosphorus, there is potassium, there's all kinds of bones and all kinds of minerals in that. And that's where Calc Food, this is the formula I take every single day for strong bones. In fact, for years, I'm half Chinese. So, I've tried to fulfill certain stereotypes, and I watched all these Bruce Lee movies as a child and trained in martial arts. And I could, just as he did in the movies, do a pop-up. And don't ask me to do that on video. I don't know if I can still do that. I could if I trained to do it, but I would be able to do a pop-up and then get ready to pretend for a fight. And I would crack my knuckles in my hands the same way that Bruce Lee used to do in every single movie before a fight. He would crack. It was almost like an intimidation tool of his. And I used to be able to do that. And then I also had symptoms where my knees would pop. I would bend down to grab things on the ground. My knees would pop, and it always occurred in the morning quite frequently. And then I started taking this formula and my knees stopped popping and I can't even crack my knuckles anymore, right? So I'm a disgrace to fulfilling that Asian stereotype of trying to be like Bruce Lee, but I haven't been able to do that for a really long time. And so Calc Food has helped me out with that. Now, in the event, some individuals are not looking for some bone food, we have some other formulas that help with ligaments. So Ligaplex 1 and Ligaplex 2, these are also very rich in manganese, but a manganese-rich food formula, and it can also nourish the bones. So individuals who maybe have weak bones and have weak joints. There was a time when I was younger, I actually did notice that my kneecap would slide off. And that's indicative that tendons and ligaments are somewhat weak. Some individuals may have a lot of joint issues or hypermobility, or they're just very flexible with the joints and they're afraid that maybe their joints will dislocate more easily during certain physical activities. And that's indicative that certain ligament food is going to be necessary. I sometimes have individuals who have teeth that are weak. And I remember going to a dentist probably about 15 years ago before I started getting to nutrition work, and the dentist looked at my teeth and noticed they were loose, and she wiggled them and she showed me a mirror, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my teeth, right? How scary is that? And she was wiggling, and I'm like, stop wiggling it, right? And to me, I was concerned. Of course, she had asked me a question that was very interesting. She asked me, do you have a history of diabetes? And I was like, what? No, I don't. And from my blood work at that time, it showed normal. But it made me also realize the connectivity between abnormal blood sugar to increase decay of bone that's necessary to hold the teeth in. And so, of course, with the Calc Food, it filled in the teeth for me, and my teeth were no longer wiggly. And they haven't been wheelie for a while. And sometimes I'll just go and try and move them to see if I need to increase my dose with the calcium food. But that is pretty important to know that these are bones right here. These jaw bones need bone food. And we also I have 2 children, and sometimes they're losing a tooth and they need help building the second tooth. Or if I'm afraid that their tooth is going to grow and crooked, I'm going to make sure they have sufficient bone food. And we have an amazing formula that we recommend in the clinic, and that's called Biodent. And Biodent does a good job of nourishing, not only providing nourishment to that tooth that's growing in and developing, but also the jaw. And I've seen literally individuals who have had crooked teeth start to have straighter teeth as they start to nourish the jaw more and hold it into the right position. So there's a lot of great mineral formulas that we have available. Everyone gets a customized solution to depending on what's going on. And that's where we've realized that minerals are important. If you're looking at building or eating to rebuild your body, there are 4 things that our body, if you were to just break down a majority of your components, what are you? Number 1 is your water, right? You're about 75%, 66 to 75% water. So just make sure you stay hydrated, and make sure if you're drinking things that have caffeine or are diuretic-like, just make sure you're drinking more, because your body's being dehydrated. So sufficient water, clean, healthy, purified water, ideally distilled, but not being stored in a plastic container, because I've had distilled water that can smell like the actual plastic. And then make sure you're eating protein. Protein is what most people are insufficient in. And there's so much protein needed to make strong bones, skin, healthy organs, muscles, and then fats. Fats literally make up every cell membrane. Every cell membrane is made up of phospholipid bilayers. What does that mean? That's fat. Okay, so healthy fats, not rancid fats, trans fats, but real healthy fats made from nature. And then the 4th is minerals, right? Without minerals, without calcium and magnesium, potassium, our muscles would not function. We wouldn't have structure in our bones and our joints and our ligaments. And we would be literally, I don't know if you can remember this, but the old original Wizard of Oz. I always think about when the Wicked Witch of the West was melting. That is a person who doesn't have enough protein or minerals in their diet, and they're just turning into this puddle of fat and water. So hopefully that visual helps you to remember to keep getting minerals, and from foods that can be literally connective tissues. So there's Biodent and the Ligaplex 1 and 2. Connective tissue is very important. I'm half Chinese, and for anybody who's out there who's eaten dim sum, there's one dish that's very rich in cartilage and connective tissue, and that's chicken feet. So some of you may not have been used to that, eating that or eating cartilage or tendons, but it has always been part of a Native American diet, an Aboriginal diet, to actually consume the tendons to nourish your own tendons. And then the others are going to be kelp and alfalfa and green leafy vegetables. Your green leafy vegetables grown on nutrient-dense soils are going to be rich in the trace minerals like selenium, chromium, zinc, iodine, potassium. So be sure to make sure you're getting your green leafy vegetables, your bone broths, and if you can, get some connective tissue in your diet. All right, this is just a brief overview of the different minerals that we have available. Everybody's a little bit different. Everyone needs different minerals in a different ratio. Try to get as much of it you can from your food. If you have any questions regarding functional nutrition, feel free to reach out to me anytime.